Hey guys, welcome back to another great game of CEDH. I know when this releases, the event will almost be over, but if you're going to Command Fest Orlando, hit me up and let's get some games in. And as a reminder, I also am running a giveaway for hitting 4,000 subscribers, so check out my previous video, which I'll have linked in the corner for more details. Also, have you heard the news? Your favorite CEDH YouTube channel has released some cool merch. And if you're interested in picking up some sweet new apparel, come check us out. Also, if you like what you see, consider joining our Patreon, as with your help, we can keep producing the videos you enjoy. And if you want to play with us, hop on our Discord. We have an ever-growing community that loves to talk MTG, or whatever else strikes our fancy. And we would love to meet new people. Alright, block there, kill that. Oh, that is trample. Guess I'm just dead on board. Starting us off is Fernando, piloting Najeela. This is a 5-color Thrasios consultation list that backdoors into an infinite creatures and combats combo with Nigila, who, even if just left alone, can amass a horde of warriors to take their opponents out. Next up is Ryan on Atraxa Grand Unifier. This is a combo control list, playing the best cards available, while countering and removing anything in her way, till the Grand Phyrexian Angel can make an appearance. Your commander is an insane value engine, helping you refill on cards and keeping you going in the late game. The list utilizes Food Chain as a way to speed up the process, while ultimately relying on Atraxas as a win con. In the third spot, we have Thomas playing Shorikai, Genesis Engine. This is a humility control deck, as Shorikai is not a creature, and can win through humility, unlike a majority of the other commanders. With another benefit coming as an outlet for Isochron Dramatic, since this commander doesn't require either haste or a turn to wait. And bringing up the rear, we have Hidden Planet X on Corvold, Killer of Docksides. No longer is this Food Chain Corvold, it's now all about Dockside, and not just casting him, but sacking and reanimating him, since Goblin is a dragon's favorite food. This is another fast turbo Naz list that can end games quickly, even without a Naz, by just casting Corvold and beating face. But without further ado, let's get on to the gameplay. Fernando starts off the game cracking a Verdant Catacombs to grab a scrub land, shortcutting for an Esper Sentinel. Ryan has a Morphic Pool and casts a Mana Crypt.
You should pay.
No, I'm not
You should
paying.
pay.
Come on.
I'm not paying.
Come on. Be a team player.
Oh, I wanted to have some fun this game.
He starts tapping mana, and surprisingly, it's not a Ristic, but a Windfall. Everyone is fine with that, and they discard their hands, drawing 7 fresh cards. A Lotus Petal then comes out, and he cracks it for a Mystic Remora. Thomas plays a Sea Chrome Coast and passes.
No, man, you're supposed to play something.
Supposed to feed the fish.
Oh, there's another
You
one
know,
there. Actually,
now that there's another one, I don't know.
Yeah. Hidden has a Bloodstained Mire and cracks it for a Taiga. He shortcuts as he casts a Mana Crypt. He actually pays for the Sentinel, but can't afford the fish, as he goes looking for his land.
4
But I'm
mana's
gonna
a
be
lot.
done after that.
that's just disrespectful, Steve.
I'm okay with it.
Fernando plays an Exotic Orchard and casts a Collector Roof, ending his turn, sending the Esper Sentinel at Ryan for 1.
Oh, can I see that?
Yeah, hold on.
Even's always good. Lose 3.
It worked.
Oh, lightning bolt.
Ryan keeps his fish and plays a Polluted Delta, with Thomas at his end step casting a Chain of Vapor on the Oof. He gives a card to both Fernando and Ryan, with the Oof being bounced. Thomas plays a Lotus Petal, with Fernando and Ryan drawing. Thomas then plays a Tundra, and for 3 casts a Ristic Study. Ryan triggers his fish, but responding to the trigger, he cracks his Polluted Delta for an Overgrown Tomb. He doesn't have anything else, and the fish trigger resolves, with him drawing. And the Ristic then resolves as well, with Thomas handing the turn over. Hidden rolls for crit and is safe for now.
Maybe we should switch dice.
Hidden cracks a Polluted Delta for Badlands, and actually just wants to hold up his mana. Fernando plays a Scalding Tarn as land, and he cracks it for an Underground Sea.
I'm a little upset because I know Oof is going to come down.
And turn your crypt off. I'm a little upset because it's going to come down and turn my deck off.
Fernando then replays the Oof and pays for Ristic. Hidden does float some mana with his crypt, and when Fernando moves to combat, Hidden actually channels a Beseiju to blow up Thomas's wrist stick. Thomas searches out a tapped Hollowed Fountain, while Fernando heads to combat and sends a Sentinel back at Ryan for 1. Ryan is safe from his grip and lets his fish go.
Yeah, I am not paying for more anymore.
You sure?
Oh, I'm 100% certain.
You can draw more.
No, I'm going to draw.
And then cast another Windfall.
My card for turn.
Ryan has an island for land and casts a Cyclonic Rift, targeting the Oof. He gives a card to Fernando, but the Oof is bounced again. Next, he casts an Arcane Signet and follows that up with a Ledger Shredder. Thomas plays an island and casts an Imposter Mech. He doesn't pay for the Sentinel, and it then resolves, entering as an Esper Sentinel as well. He ends his turn with a very sad Azorius Signet, and this time triggering the Ledger Shredder, to have Ryan connive away an Echo of Eons. Hidden takes 3 from his script and decides what he wants to do.
Alright, let's be funky.
Okay.
Sounds good.
I'll have 1 floating colorless. I'm gonna cast a Tainted Pact. I'm not paying for any of it.
Cool.
Good.
I have no responses.
Okay. Animate Dead. Veil. That's not a great hit.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's going for Dark Side for sure.
Hopefully it's a combo piece prior. Come on, Dockside be the last card.
Here we go.
Jeez.
All right. Hit Breach.
He forgot to put Dark Side on the
Hit Breach.
I know, like, I just imagine.
Hit Breach. Hit Breach. Come on.
Yes!
Does that do anything?
Hell
Well, I mean, I could, like,
Korvold's still a beast.
yeah.
It's big.
Let's keep. Let's keep going.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
But you don't have a choice, right? You gotta keep going.
I can choose
you
whenever to
choose-
stop.
Oh, okay.
It's the money consultation, the one that you have no choice. You gotta name something.
Gotcha.
So easy.
And it really
Outplayed.
was on the bottom.
We just outplayed the heck out of
Oh,
I
him.
know.
man.
Oh my
We
god.
baited him into the Tainted.
0 mana. Exile my opponent's deck.
Holy.
Yep.
Yeah, he forgot to put in the deck. Ooh, okay. We're getting there.
Oh, there we I have. Shit.
Dockside.
That's alright, you got a 4/4.
I know. Holy shit.
I like that.
Get a dark side.
Well, that was certainly a play. This was the first time I played the list, and honestly, I don't know if I was supposed to stop earlier and give up on Dockside. Hidden then cast the Goblin and triggers Ryan's Ledger Shredder to connive away an Emil. The Dockside then resolves and Hidden gains 5 treasures, and along with an exiled Simian Spirit Guide, casts Corvold, who on ETB has a sack trigger on the stack. Responding to this, Hidden cracks a treasure for a black and draws off Corvold, following that up with a Malakar Rebirth targeting the Dockside. The Corvold trigger then resolves and Hidden sacrifices the Goblin to have it come back for another 5 treasures.
Deck.
Honestly,
He's trying really hard.
He's going on his own terms.
Hidden is not sure if he has any win cons left, and goes looking through his exile pile, as he realizes he has 1 out left. He cracks his treasure for a green and draws off Corvold. He uses the green on a Tinderwall, sacrificing it for 2 more red and another draw off Corvold. He has 5 cards left in his library and cracks another treasure for a red and a draw. He uses 2 of it to cast a Twin Flame, targeting his Dockside. Holding priority, he cracks the remaining treasure to cast a Dual Caster Mage. He's left with 1 card left in his library as the Dual Caster Mage resolves, and it ETBs targeting the Twin Flame. And while Hidden thought he had it, Fernando responds with a Force of Will, exiling a Dispel. Wah wah. He gives a card to Thomas off the Esper, and unfortunately for Hidden, it looks like he girl-bossed himself a little too much as he ends his turn with a Lotus Petal.
What are the odds that you're going to play Collector?
Very high.
Can we talk you out of it or bribe you maybe?
Absolutely not.
will someone please just discard a Thassa's Oracle?
The oof then comes back out, and Fernando follows it up with a reduced cost Okame Adversary. The Ledger Shredder triggers again, and Ryan discards a Dispel, with Fernando ending his turn with combat, sending a Sentinel at Thomas for 1. Ryan is saved from his script and shocks in a Godless Shrine.
I girl bossed a little too hard.
You what?
I girl bossed a little too hard.
That was really, I mean, I didn't think you even had a chance.
Yeah, that was terrifying.
3 mana then gets Ryan a Rhystic of his own. Both Thomas and Fernando draw, with the Rhystic resolving, and Ryan also ending with combat, sending his Shredder at Fernando.
I'll pass my turn.
Why do you keep attacking me, man? 2 games straight. Give me. Attack him.
He's gonna die in his turn.
You don't know that.
Thomas cracks a Mystic Rainforest for an island and casts an Out of Time. Ryan and Fernando draw, with the enchantment resolving and phasing out a bunch of creatures. Hidden takes 3 from his script and draws the last card in his library. He casts a Talisman of Dominance and gives a card to both Ryan and Thomas. Hidden is pretty sure he's dead and doesn't have any outs as he passes the turn. Fernando shocks in a Watery Grave and for 3 casts an Azra's Oddsmaker. He then casts a Chromox and feeds another card to both Ryan and Thomas. Fernando imprints a Mindblade Render and for 2 abrades Ryan's Mana Crypt, fearing an Atraxa hitting the board next turn.
He's saving you from the damage. It's an act of kindness.
Yep,
Mercy, really.
that is.
Ryan untaps and Fernando realizes he wished he had played his turn differently. He should have cast Nigila instead of the Azra. He's holding a Cyclonic Rift and thought he should have balanced the Out of Time, gotten the attacks, and is also holding a Fierce Guardianship to stop the enchantment on the way back. Then Ryan wouldn't have had the mana to cast Atraxa, and Fernando would have been in a great spot. But let's get back to the game. Ryan plays a Verdant Catacombs as land and bolts himself for an untapped Temple Garden. 3 mana then gets him a Teferi, Time Raveler. He doesn't pay for the Esper Sentinel, and Thomas responds with a Dovin's Veto on Teferi.
Get wrecked. Finally, someone doing something. It's not me.
Get that shit out of here.
All right,
4-color good stuff. Come on.
it's not that bad.
Thomas untabs and removes a Vanishing counter. He then casts a Narset and gives a card to Ryan.
This is what? Oh, the one that only lets you to draw 1 card per turn?
Yeah. Just red one.
Oh no! I can only draw one card a turn.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thomas doesn't activate it right away and instead casts a Mana Vault first. The Narset stops the Rhystic, and he then finally downticks the Walker to reveal a Blind Obedience. Next up is a dramatic reversal to untap his rocks and help him cast a Smothering Tide.
I'm F6. I don't have any responses.
pass
Your
turn.
turn.
Yeah,
Yes.
please.
Oh, sorry. No!
Alright.
I didn't even give you a Smothering Tide trigger.
Fernando untaps, draws, and gives Thomas a treasure. Fernando spends 3 mana to cast his commander Najeela. He gives a card to Ryan and then follows it up with a Cyclonic Rift on the borrowed time. Thomas responds with the Dress Down though. The enchantment resolves and the Psych then bounces the borrowed time. And while the Dress Down does remove abilities, the creatures still have their power and toughness as Fernando moves to combat. The Oddsmaker heads at Narset, with the rest of the team swinging at Thomas himself for 5. Ryan draws and gives Thomas a treasure.
That oof. It won't leave. It won't leave.
Oh yeah, that's right, there's new for play.
Ryan plays an island and casts an Esper Sentinel. He follows that up with an Elves of Deep Shadow.
Is it worth doing this?
No, yes, maybe. I don't know.
Ryan then moves to combat and sends his Shredder at Thomas for 4. Thomas untaps, plays a Plains, and casts Out of Time. He triggers Fernando's Sentinel and Ryan's Rhystic Hand Sentinel. He has everyone draw and gains 3 treasures. Surprisingly, it's Ryan who responds, as he mana drains the spell, as he's worried without the oof, they just lose to Shorikai. This does trigger Thomas's and Fernando's Esper Sentinel, as he chooses to pay for Thomas's. This gives him another treasure, with Thomas responding with a Brainstorm to go digging. He gives a card to Ryan and nets himself a treasure. This also triggers the Shredder, and Ryan connives away a Carpet of Flowers, as Thomas draws his 3 and puts 2 back. Thomas finishes brainstorming, and the mana drain still on the stack, he casts a Cyclonic Rift to bounce the Collector Roof. This gives Ryan a card from the wrist stick, and Fernando then respawns with a miscast on the Rift. This triggers both Ryan and Thomas's Esper Sentinel, and the stack finally then starts to resolve again. The miscast counters the Psych, with the mana drain countering the out of time. Fernando untaps, draws, and gives Thomas another treasure. Fernando has a Mana Conflux's land, and then casts an Aladamri's Call. This puts Thomas's Esper Sentinel and Ryan's Ristic and Esper on the stack, with Fernando letting everyone drop and getting Thomas more treasure. Fernando ends up finding a Thassa's Oracle, but there was some consideration for just grabbing Derevi. And Fernando then decides he wants even more cards as he moves to combat, with Ryan responding with the swords on the oof. Fernando and Thomas both draw, with Fernando responding with a Fierce Guardianship. He lets Ryan draw off the Ristic, with the Ledger Shredder conniving away a Mox Diamond. Fernando then makes it to combat and triggers his Oddsmaker, discarding a Dark Confidant. Fernando sends Najeela, the Esper Sentinel, and Occam Adversary and Collector Roof at Thomas, while the Oddsmaker and the 3 newly created warriors head at Ryan. There are no blocks, and Fernando draws 3 cards. Then on his second main, he casts the Oracle. Ryan draws and responds with a Pact of Negation. Fernando starts looking at his hand and thinks if there's anything he can do. He unfortunately is a mana short, as he has both a Demonic Consultation and a Tainted Pact in hand, and unfortunately for him, he has to let the Pact of Negation resolve, as he passes the turn after that, with Ryan at his end step paying 2 life to Nox's Revival the swords back on top of his library. Ryan untaps and pays the Pact trigger. He draws his swords and gains 3 mana off the mana drain. He plays a Swamp as land and casts a Food Chain. Fernando and Thomas draw, with Fernando firing off a Tainted Pact to look for some free counter magic. He gives a card to Ryan and Thomas and starts exiling, thinking he has a Force of Negation in the list. But as he keeps going, he ends up as same as hidden, with an exiled library and nothing to answer it. The enchantment resolves, with Ryan then following that up with Eternal Scourge. And with that, the table scoops it up, as he can exile the Scourge for infinite mana to recast Atraxa, drawing his deck and winning the game with Thassa's Oracle.
By the way, I had Thassa's in my hand the whole time. I almost discarded, but I discarded Meal instead.
Duh! Game review. Well, what can I say? I like making risky plays. This was my first time playing Corvold, so I honestly didn't know what I was doing with the Tainted Pact. A more experienced pilot probably would have stopped earlier, and I did think about it when I exiled the Underworld Breach. But having already exiled the LED, and knowing Fernando still hit the oof, it felt like my chances of winning were slipping, so I went for it, and I was surprised I still nearly got the win. And speaking about getting the win, Fernando almost had it as well. But I guess he got a little too greedy with the attack instead of just going for it. He did say after he should have attacked before the tutor, since I'm pretty sure Ryan wouldn't have removed the oof if he didn't think he needed the help from Thomas to deal with the combo. And man, did that oof really have an impact. But I guess that's no surprise when there's a Shorikai at the table. And unfortunately for Thomas, his removal spells were all bounce spells. So there wasn't really much he could do. But thanks to everyone that played, and remember, never give up, even if you're dead on board. I'll see you guys later.